Pursuant to Internal Revenue Service guidance, be advised that any federal tax advice contained in this program is not intended to be used, and it cannot be used by any person or entity for the purpose of avoiding any tax penalties that may be imposed by the Internal Revenue Service or any other U.S. federal taxing authority or agency, or promoting, marketing, or recommending to another party any transaction or matter addressed in this show. The opinions expressed by the host and the guests are their own and may not be used as authoritative advice. Any use of this material without the written consent of the host is strictly prohibited.
You're listening to the IRS Radio Hour with your host, Attorney Stephen Leahy, on AM 560, The Answer. Tune in every week at 5 for an informative discussion about IRS obligations, credit card debt, mortgage default, collection activity, and how to resolve these legal issues using tax resolution, debt settlement, mortgage loan modification, foreclosure defense, and bankruptcy. Your host is Stephen Leahy, a Chicago attorney and the principal at Oakham Tax Resolution and the law office of Stephen A. Leahy, P.C. Stephen is the author of Deal with Your IRS Problems Today. IRS and debt issues are serious, but there is help. There are resolutions. So get ready and take notes during the IRS Radio Hour. And now, here's your host, Attorney Stephen Leahy.
Hello, Chicago. Welcome to the IRS Radio Hour on AM 560, The Answer. I want to remind our listeners that this show is sponsored by Oakham Tax Resolution and the law office of Stephen A. Leahy.
The fine people at Oakham.
That's right. We help people dealing with IRS problems, audits, levies, liens, garnishments, foreclosures, loan modifications, bankruptcy, and other debt-related issues. I'm losing my touch here, though, but I want to introduce my co-host, Jim Leahy.
Welcome back, everybody. If it's Sunday at 5, it's the IRS Radio Hour. This is a show about helping people through their financial problems. But this is also a show that we like to keep our audience up to date. We talk about local issues, politics, sports, family, different things, a little history. America. Every now and then, we like to bring in the history, bring people up to date with what's going on around town.
Well, what is going around town?
Well,
today,
let's see. There's the first couple of things we have to talk about. Last week, we talked about our friends, the Chicago Bears. The Bears. All right, keep it down, boys. And we have to tell you, we held back on this, but we're going to have to play it.
The Chicago Bears. Terror of the Midway. More like Chicago Chipmunks, maybe, but Bears, never.
That hurts to have to do that.
It does hurt.
But we'll do it again if you lose this week.
They're saying that's what they're talking about is in Green Bay, Jim.
Yeah, I know. Their wives are saying that about you. That's how bad this is getting. And, I
like to see some of the passion, at least, Marshall stands up and says things, But our coach, everything is going to be okay. It's just one game.
We're all in love here. We love each other. It's a lovely thing to do.
It's just one game. Well, it'll be right as rain.
And so you, to our regular listeners, you know that we taped this show on Friday, but we're taping on Thursday this week
because of Freedom Summit.
That's right, the Freedom Summit, and we had a great time there. We haven't been there yet, but we're going to go, so we know we've been to these other institutional things.
Got some big names there. Sean Hannity.
Yeah, it's going to be huge.
Sean Hannity. Big. And Mark Stein, one of my favorite guys.
I love Mark Stein.
I do too.
Shut up, you idiot!
That's Mark Levin.
No, that's Mark Levin. Oh, Mark Stein is the host. I still like Mark Levin, too.
I like Mark Levin better than Mark Stein. But don't tell Mark Stein that. He's the occasional host of
another show on another station at another time, and we'll get past that.
Bush Bimbow.
Okay, what else is going on? It looks as though as we get closer and closer to the election.
Well, first I wanted to mention the calibration error.
Oh, no. First thing we want to remember is last week the kids came home. Everybody was there. We had a house full of children again. 5 of them were there. We had a party for Jennifer's birthday. We watched Notre Dame. They was robbed. And I'm going to tell you right now, I think there's money on that game, and I think they got robbed.
That's what you're playing over there at these away games, and their officials don't like Notre Dame.
The Notre Dames. But, of course, we're like either you love them or hate them. We love them. So most of you people hate them. But that's okay because you don't like...
so now can I talk about the calibration error?
No, because then we got to talk about sports. other sports stations. We're into sports. We talked about the Bears. We talked about Notre Dame. Now it's time to talk about the World Series.
That's great. I watched both games.
I was
good games.
I was, in Kansas City. You thought maybe the magic was gone there. You
came back,
take a couple of days off, and what happens?
You talk about the Blackhawks.
You got smacked. The Blackhawks still they're playing tonight, but they still have not lost in regulation. They are one fantastic team.
I heard a interesting statistic.
Oh, yeah. Let's hear it.
That statistic is the Blackhawks have won more games at Soldier Field in this calendar year than the Chicago Bears.
Oh my God, that's true. It is true. This is the longest the Chicago Bears have ever gone without winning at a home game.
I
heard that. It will be November. The last one was October 31st. Was the last time. So okay, boys, hold it down over there. They're all upset.
I'm upset.
I'm upset too. And
we're coming back. It'll be right. It'll be fine.
All we got to do is win one in New England. That's all, and everything will be okay.
Tom Brady's not that good.
No, and then we got a week off, and then we come back to play the Packers.
Okay, so we're going to run out of time. So let's move.
Now we're going to go into it's almost time for the elections. We have just under 2 weeks left until the national elections for the midterms, as they call them. And it looks as though a lot of these candidates are running away from our president, but he doesn't. He's going to tell you exactly what this election's about.
But make no mistake, these policies are on the ballot. Every single one of them.
Yes, and I make no mistake, our loyal listeners, these policies are on the ballot. But it seems to me that these candidates are running away from
all
them.
over the country. They're running away.
That's right.
How fast are Democrats running from President Obama?
A few years ago, they would have been there in every photo opportunity.
Democrats who face the voters in a matter of weeks aren't just walking away from the president. Members of his own party are doing everything they can to look like they are keeping him at arm's length.
I have stood up to the president.
I don't need him campaigning for me. I need him to change some of his policies. So if he wants to come up there and learn about Alaska, bring it on. No, we've had our differences, as you know. And
I disagree with Obama, and yes, I've been disappointed in him.
He's trying to distance himself from President Obama.
I'm not going to invite anyone in from out of state.
Do you think that the Obama administration has done an appropriate job handling the crisis?
And having the president come would not be helpful?
Mark Udall has been trying so hard to run away from the president on so many things.
When they look down the front lawn, the last person they want to see coming is me.
Does that mean you're going to campaign with him, or you're going to have him campaign with you side by side?
Clearly, Udall is running away from the White House.
That was not a yes or no. Yes or no? Wow. One more chance? You're not going to say yes or no, are you?
Let's see what the schedule allows.
Did you vote for President Obama?
Yeah, this is cringeworthy.
Did you vote for him?
Should we not show it?
So you're not going to answer.
You can disagree with him, but you can't answer that basic question.
I'm not going to compromise a constitutional right provided here in Kentucky.
Respect the sanctity of the ballot box.
President Barack Obama, would you want him to come down and campaign for you?
You won't answer that question tonight.
Again, I'm not Barack Obama.
Wow. And now they're not even calling him the president.
So there was a whole list of senatorial candidates throughout the nation and some pundits that were.
But will this hurt the president's feelings?
No. Look, here's the bottom line. We've got a tough map. A lot of the states that are contested this time are states that I didn't win. And so some of the candidates there, it is difficult for them to have me in the state because the Republicans will use that to try to fan Republican turnout. The bottom line is, though, these are all folks who vote with me. They have supported my agenda in Congress. They are on the right side of minimum wage. They are on the right side of fair pay. They are on the right side of rebuilding our infrastructure. They're on the right side of early childhood education. So, this isn't about my feelings being hurt. These are folks who are strong allies and supporters of me. And, I tell them, I said, you know what, you do what you need to win.
You do what you need to do to win.
That's right. That means you stay out. That means Michelle stays out. That means all of you stay out of here.
So there was James O'Keefe down there, and they asked questions. Where is his position on gay marriage? Oh, he's not he says he's against it, but he's really for it.
Yeah, that was that's the girl, the lady running in Georgia against Mitch McConnell.
In Georgia,
who's really against coal. But you can't win here unless you're against.
So
if you're anti-coal.
She really won't vote against it, but she's not going to say that.
That's right.
Because people aren't smart enough, Jim. We don't really know what's good for us, and so they have to lie to us. It's for our own good.
Look where they've gotten us so far. Boy, oh boy, we're in great shape. Now, hardly anybody's died of Ebola. No Americans have died of Ebola.
So we need six. Senate seats, and looks good. But I don't count the chickens before they're hatched.
No, they said that the AP had a poll that had us even 2 weeks ago, and now it says the Republicans are up by 8. But.
So
don't take that to heart.
Okay, so I missed this at the beginning. So if you have IRS problems, you should give me a call at 312-664-6649. You should visit us on the web at ChicagoTaxTeam.com.
Steve, what is we'll see on the other side.
Hi, I'm Stephen Leahy, a local Chicago attorney. I believe that God has given each of us unique abilities, and we are to use those abilities to help others. I have helped hundreds of Chicagoans recover from financial disaster. And if the IRS is threatening you with liens, levies, or garnishments, or you have years of unfiled tax returns, I want to help you. Compliance is the first step to resolving your IRS problem, and compliance begins with your 2013 taxes. Are you ready? If you call now, make an appointment, and visit my office for a free confidential consultation, we will complete your personal 2013 tax return at no charge, even if you don't hire me to resolve your IRS problem. Remember, I'm a local Chicago attorney. Investigate me. Simply Google Stephen with a V, Leahy, Leahy, reviews to find out what the Better Business Bureau and others have said. Or call me at 312-664-6649. Again, that's 312-664-6649. Visit us on the web at ChicagoTaxTeam.com. Call me today.
Welcome back to the IRS Radio Hour with attorney Stephen Leahy. Stephen has helped hundreds of Chicagoans recover from financial disaster, and he wants to help you and your family. There are resolutions, and you will hear about all those resolutions during today's informative discussion on the IRS Radio Hour on AM 560 The Answer. Now, here's your host, attorney Stephen Leahy.
Welcome back. I am your host, attorney Stephen Leahy, and this is the IRS Radio Hour on AM 560 The Answer.
I was going to say, and before I was interrupted by the commercial, that have you put my picture on the Facebook page yet? Do we have a Facebook page?
I have not put your picture on the Facebook page. I want to save our listeners from that
that awful mess. So then I'm like the unknown.
You're on the videos, Jim. They're on. We have video. Remember, we have videos of all the shows. Right. You can go and watch the show in full. You can listen to the podcast. You can. We have different clips of different sections.
How will they know it's me?
So this is you're the other guy. We have clips from each. From the blog post.
So like us on Facebook is what I'm saying. Please like us. Like us.
This is the blog post
the blog part, Steve.
Segment.
So what is the blog post for this week, Steve?
So recently I've been writing articles about the Illinois Mortgage Foreclosure Law and how it affects people and what kind of strategies you can take to try to save your home. And I've talked about litigation. I've talked about trying to do some discovery. I've talked about loan modifications. And this week I'm going to talk about how to use Chapter 13 to save your home. And Chapter 13 is in the bankruptcy law. Remember, if you think of the Bankruptcy Code as a book, like every other book, it's divided into chapters.
Chapter 13 comes right after Chapter 12.
It does come after Chapter 12.
And right before Chapter 14.
I don't believe there is a Chapter 14, but hey, well, who's counting? Anyway, this is how Chapter 13 will. If they file a foreclosure action against you, you can use Chapter 13 to save your home. And one of the reasons why I want to talk about Chapter 13 in order to save your home is because I think sometimes people overlook it. And because we hear so much about these loan modifications. And remember, I talked about loan modifications last week. And so if you have questions about it, you can go to the blog. You can read the article that I wrote. You can watch the video segment about that, about loan modifications. And I explained that. And we're going to talk a little bit more about loan modifications in the listener question. Or
there is no listener question
right.
anymore. We've changed it.
That's the Dr. Fader question.
Dr. Richard Fader is going to ask you questions.
That's right. So that we're going to talk a little bit more about loan modifications there. But this, I wanted to talk about Chapter 13, again, because I think what happens is people start talking to their mortgage company and looking for a loan modification. And sometimes that loan modification, it takes a lot longer than most people think. And sometimes if you get it early and you're not that far behind, then Chapter 13 might be a very good option for you to try to save your home. So I'm going to talk about how that works, okay? So again, Chapter 13, the title of Chapter 13 is Adjustment of Debt for Individuals with Regular Income. And what happens under a Chapter 13 is you devise a plan to repay your creditors over a period of time. Now, because your mortgage is a secured debt, means that they have a lien on your home, and if you don't pay them, they can foreclose on your home, and that's what we're talking about if you're in foreclosure. And bankruptcy won't stop that. They still have the lien. They can still foreclose. You can protect yourself from a deficiency, and we're going to get into that in the next couple of weeks about protecting yourself from a deficiency if, in fact, you can't save your home through loan modifications and these other things that we've been talking about. So in Chapter 13, again, it's adjustment of debt. So what happens is I have to pay all of the arrears back to the mortgage company. But so what happens, here's a typical situation. A gentleman, maybe his rent or his mortgage is $1,700 a month, and he's laid off. And so he misses 3 or 4 months or 5 months in mortgage payments. And then the mortgage payments, now he goes back to work. But he can't, the mortgage company
will never catch up.
The mortgage company won't allow him to start making mortgage payments again, even though he can, unless he pays the full amount due. So now I owe whatever it is. So let's say he owes $12,000. Okay, so I owe $12,000, and the mortgage company will not let me make mortgage payments again until I pay them the $12,000 or until they do a loan modification. But again, every month now, I'm going to owe more and more, another $1,700, another $1,700, another $1,700. And eventually that number is going to get very big. But early on...
$12,000 is pretty big.
That's true. But early on, if it's $12,000, for instance, if I can do a Chapter 13, Chapter 13 will allow me to pay back that $12,000 over a period of 5 years. Mm-hmm. Okay, so if I paid $100 a month for 5 years, that would be $6,000 because 60 months. If I paid $200 a month,
did you do that in your head there?
If I paid $200 a month, that'd be $12,000. That's enough for me to reinstate my mortgage. And so in the meantime, as I'm paying that $200 a month, the mortgage company is obligated to accept my regular monthly mortgage payments again. So I'm not falling farther and farther behind. Again, if I wait too long in the loan modification process and maybe that number grows to be $30,000, well, now it's $500 a month. And if I have credit cards, and so for instance, maybe I have credit cards that total $30,000. Well, under Chapter 13, I may be able to pay my unsecured creditors as little as 10 cents on the dollar. So that's only $3,000. So if I spread that out over 60 months, that's $50 a month. So in my example, he
doesn't even have a calculator here.
So in my example, if I owe $12,000 to my mortgage company and I have $30,000 in unsecured debt, I could pay $250 a month. Plus, I have to pay a portion to the trustee. So let's say it's $275 a month, and I could pay my regular monthly mortgage payment again of $1,700. Okay, so that might be something I can do. If that number goes to $500 or $600, now it becomes a lot less possible for me to do a Chapter 13, to get into a Chapter 13 and save my house. So the longer I wait, the bigger that number gets, the more likely it is that Chapter 13 won't help me save my home. And that's why it's so important to see somebody early. Okay, so when you're going to be in foreclosure or right after you get served, get some help. Talk to me or talk to somebody, but talk to somebody about how to try to save your home if that's your biggest goal. And oftentimes that is people's their first goal is, I want to save my home.
That's their biggest investment.
Sometimes you look at the numbers and then they turn around and say, you know what, I don't want to save my home, because the numbers just get so big that that you're going to be giving all your money to your mortgage company for the next 5 years, and maybe that won't work for you. And again, we're going to talk about if you can't save your home, we're going to talk about that in the next couple of weeks. We're going to talk about trying to protect yourself from a deficiency, and there's ways to do that. And again, you have to go in this with a strategy. What if this happens? What am I going to do? What if that happens? What am I going to do? So you have to kind of lay it out early. I always say you need to get somewhere you want to go, you have to have a map. So you have to sit down early and then come up with a map to where you want to go. And if where you want to go is save your home, well, then we have to figure out what kind of strategy is going to allow you to do that and save your home.
So you're like a map maker.
That's right. Coming up with a strategy is a map maker. That's correct. Now, one thing that I want to mention also is that even though you file a Chapter 13 bankruptcy, see, when I file a Chapter 13 bankruptcy, I haven't changed my mortgage. So that means my mortgage payments are going to be exactly what they were before. Okay, so because the same agreement. But just because I file Chapter 13 doesn't mean I still can't get a loan modification.
Oh.
So I've seen people go into Chapter 13 and then apply. So now I can start making my regular monthly mortgage payments again. So I'm not falling farther and farther and farther behind. And I'm not risking losing my home, because even if they don't give me a loan modification, it may be difficult, but I have this remedy and I in Chapter 13 to save my house. But again, I have seen people go into Chapter 13 and then get a loan modification too. So you could do both. And again, if your biggest goal is saving your home, you don't want to go down that road where there's a sale date and now you're scrambling to try to save your house. So start early, get some help and get some good advice. And getting somebody that understands not only foreclosure law, but also bankruptcy and loan modification.
But you understand all that,
and that's
so why wouldn't they call you?
That's right. And I always like to think of myself more as a financial I come up with financial remedies. Okay, so
I think of you differently, but
yeah.
that's something else.
Okay, so again, if you're having some trouble and you need help, you should call me. And you should call me at 312-664-6649. We'll sit down and we'll draw a map to get you to where you want to go.
You forgot to tell them you're an author too, aren't you?
I am. I wrote a book. It's called Deal with Your IRS Problems Today. And you can find that book and all of my articles on ChicagoTaxTeam.com.
And he will even sign the book and send it to you if you call.
If you call and ask 312-664-6649.
Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back.
Hi, I'm Stephen Leahy, and for me, success comes when I help other people. That's why I became an attorney. I know the economy has taken a financial toll on many families and businesses, but I believe that they can recover from their financial problems if they just get the right help. I'm here in Chicago, and I know that if people improve their financial situation, they improve their lives, and I want to help. If the IRS is attacking you with liens, levies, or garnishments, if your mortgage company has threatened foreclosure, or collectors' calls are driving you mad, you need help. We listen to your financial situation, find out what's really going on, and develop a workable solution. Remember, I'm right here in Chicago, and your first visit is completely free and confidential. I will tell you on the spot what can be done and what it will cost. If you are looking for help, you've come to the right place. Call me, Stephen Leahy, at 312-664-6649. Again, that's 312-664-6649. Or visit us on the web at ChicagoTaxTeam.com. Call me today.
You're listening to the IRS Radio Hour with attorney Stephen Leahy on AM 560, The Answer. Attorney Stephen Leahy brings his passion and expertise to your radio each and every week during the IRS Radio Hour. Tune in, take notes, and be educated to learn your options resolving financial obstacles that face so many. And now, back to the IRS Radio Hour with your host, attorney Stephen Leahy.
Welcome back. I am your host, attorney Stephen Leahy, and this is the IRS Radio Hour on AM 560, The Answer.
Well, Steve,
this is your favorite segment, isn't it?
It is my favorite segment. It's everybody's favorite segment, Steve. I'm sorry to tell you that, but this is our ongoing saga of
As the IRS Turns.
That's right. It keeps continuing. It keeps getting bigger. It keeps metastasizing into different things. But
I think
it also became a very fine song.
There's 7 billion people walking on this world of ours. How I found the perfect girl, I think about the odds. I think somebody up above had us exchanging glances. I mean, what are the chances? It's like the victims of improper screenings all had the same views, and the head guy at the agency told Congress that ain't true. And it turns out when he said that, well, it really was a myth. And the lady in charge of it all happened to plead the fifth. Now, while that's all coincidence, I don't think our romance is. I mean, what are the chances? Now, while we're on the subject, stories no one buys. You can't tell me how we met, girl, ain't just fate in disguise. Regardless how improbable it seems that our romance is. I mean, what are the chances? It's like a an impartial agency with no corrupt connections leaks private tax returns which were then used to sway elections, and the hard drive of the lady at the center of the buzzing conveniently lost all the emails from the time in question, and the Congress asked for records from a second dude as well, but it turns out there weren't any cause his hard drive crashed as well. So they tried to get some records from a third person and fourth, but wouldn't you know their hard drives crashed, so no emails of course, and a fifth person and sixth person were focused on for help, and they finally found the document. No, oh, their hard drives crashed as well, and a seventh person that they 7 people. That is not suspicious at all. Purely coincidence. I love you, girl.
Not that one, Paul. That one makes me cry.
It's a purely coincidence. But you know what I like about I like the song, but what I also like, you know, if they're talking about taking over, as we just mentioned in the last segment about the Senate taking over the Republicans taking over the Senate, and they're promising many more investigations, Jim.
So that we will have content.
Yes, so
which is very important.
Jim Jordan, the Republican
subcommittee chairman from Ohio, from the Ways and Means,
and who we play a lot of his clips because he does a lot of the great investigative report. Interviews of Koskinen.
That's true. But there's also.
But he was talking about this week, talking about the number of committee hearings are going to double.
Wow!
So we should have a lot of.
We might have to move it to the bigger section, but
that's right.
That's good. Well, this week the story is the Department of Justice is blocking into the Ways and Means Committee from interviewing the what's her name, Hannah Stott Bumstead. Blondie. Anyway, Dagwood's daughter. And, Hannah Scott Bumstead was the woman sitting behind Chairman
Koskinen,
Koskinen, Commissioner Koskinen, and she was the one who broke into the White House of when.
Well, her friend. She said her friend worked for the. She said her friend worked for the Treasury, and so she mentioned it to Treasury, and then Treasury mentioned it to her other friend in the White House, and when Koskinen was testifying, he was saying how he had no idea how anybody knew, and the woman that told him was sitting right behind him.
That's right, but she didn't reach up and say, I know.
So now Treasury is saying. I'm sorry, she's not available.
Until when, Steve?
After the election.
They didn't say that. They said sometime in November. You mean right after November 3rd? Oh, well, just somewhere around the 2nd, the 4th, the 6th.
I don't think that has anything to do with it.
But it has nothing to do with the fact that we have elections coming up. So there was
another big story this week about the IRS has to do with a IRS attorney who works for the IRS and the whistleblower department, and she taken the position that the IRS is not searching. They're not following up on big money fraud. Okay, so whistleblowers come forward from big corporations,
and they get a piece if they find
that's
it.
That's right,
so.
the whistleblower. That's something we're going to have to talk about because there's lots of there is a whistleblower law.
Remember, we said that this is metastasizing. This is turning into all these different agencies are all following the same thing, and they're all putting the kibosh.
So if the IRS is coming after you, you should give me a call at 312-664-6649. Visit us on the web at chicagotexteam.com.
Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back.
Hi, I'm Stephen Leahy, a local Chicago attorney. I believe that God has given each of us unique abilities, and we are to use those abilities to help others. I have helped hundreds of Chicagoans recover from financial disaster. And if the IRS is threatening you with liens, levies, or garnishments, or you have years of unfiled tax returns, I want to help you. Compliance is the first step to resolving your IRS problem, and compliance begins with your 2013 taxes. Are you ready? If you call now, make an appointment, and visit my office for a free confidential consultation, we will complete your personal 2013 tax return at no charge, even if you don't hire me to resolve your IRS problem. Remember, I'm a local Chicago attorney. Investigate me. Simply Google Stephen with a V, Leahy, Leahy, reviews to find out what the Better Business Bureau and others have said. Or call me at 312-664-6649. Again, that's 312-664-6649. Visit us on the web at chicagotaxteam.com. Call me today.
Welcome back to the IRS Radio Hour with attorney Stephen Leahy. Stephen has helped hundreds of Chicagoans recover from financial disaster, and he wants to help you and your family. There are resolutions, and you will hear about all those resolutions during today's informative discussion on the IRS Radio Hour on AM 560 The Answer. Now, here's your host, attorney Stephen Leahy.
Welcome back. I am your host, attorney Stephen Leahy, and this is the IRS Radio Hour on AM 560 The Answer. I like that last segment, the IRS saga. We have so much to put into that saga.
Yeah, we're always running out of time on that.
I wanted to talk about some other things, but we'll talk about it another time. They'll still be here next week.
It's ongoing, as we said. Now, this is the part of the show where we've changed it to our favorite listener, Dr. Richard Fader from Fort Wayne, Indiana. And he writes this week, Steve, your blog last week was fascinating, and I wish you would continue to talk about what you were talking about last week, which is when you modify a loan, what changes can be made?
Well, that's a very good question, Dr. Fader, and I'm glad.
Thank you.
And I'm glad you listen, because I encourage everybody to listen. And then when you listen, if you have a question, give us a call. And I had a number of calls this week, so I appreciate that.
Did Dr. Fader call?
Dr. Fader did not call. He writes.
Wants a cookie.
He writes in.
He does.
And he writes the questions at irsradiohour.com.
Ooh. Bing, 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 bing.
That's right. And then I'll answer your question. But, and I just met with a client about this. They just got a loan modification. Generally, when you get a loan modification, generally you're going to get what they call a trial period. And the trial period is going to be, generally it's going to be 3 months. So they're going to give you a number. They're going to say, okay, we can't approve your loan modification yet, but we will. And here's your modification. And things have changed a lot because several years ago, I'd say 3 or 4 or 5 years ago, if you got a loan modification, it didn't mean you were going to get a loan. If you got a trial period, it didn't mean you were going to get a loan modification. And I had people who were on a trial period for over a year, sometimes much longer than a year. But nowadays, generally, the trial periods last 3 months. And if you get a trial period, it's been years since I saw someone who had a trial period and didn't get a loan modification after 3 months. So again, it's if you get a trial period, you're really getting a loan modification.
So you're saying back in the day or years ago, they used to not give it to you.
That's
but
right. Because I thought it was more of a trick. But now it's not really a trick. They're really going to give you a loan modification, but they're going to ask you to make payments for 3 months in a row. And if you make the payments, sometimes it's automatic. The loan modification. Okay, if you make 3 payments, automatically your loan is modified. But sometimes they send you the loan modification agreement. So they say, okay, you've paid the 3 months. Now here's the agreement. Here's how it's going to change. And generally what's going to change in a loan modification, right? We talked about a little bit last week in that a loan modification is not a refinance. So it's not a new loan. It's the old loan. They're just changing some terms. Like in any other contract, the parties to any contract can change the terms if they both agree. Okay, so what they're really trying to do here is they're going to change one of four things. They're going to change your interest rate. They're going to change the duration of the loan. They're going to change your the arrears, how much you owe, how much back you owe, or they're going to change what the principal amount due is. Okay, so these are the four.
You were talking about Jennifer Lopez.
These are the four things that they're going to change. In the most common type of loan modification, what happens is they take what you're behind, they add it to the principal. And then they reduce your interest rate and they amortize it, and that has this effect of lowering your mortgage payment. Now, sometimes what they do is they will forgive the arrears, how much you're behind, and
speaking of Lonnie Anderson,
okay, so they'll forgive what you're behind, and sometimes they'll also forgive some of the principal that you owe. Okay, now sometimes what they do is they put a certain amount into what they call a non-interest bearing account. Okay, so what happens is, and then sometimes they'll forgive a third of that every year for 3 years. Sometimes that they wait for a year or 2 years before they start forgiving it. So, for instance, I have $180,000 principal and I owe $30,000 in back mortgage. Okay, so now I get a modification, and the new principal amount due, they're going to amortize it for $150,000, and so that leaves a certain amount of money that is now in this non-interest bearing account, and then next year a third of that amount is going to be forgiven.
What's a third of it?
Whatever that is.
Oh, I thought you were going to do that.
And then the second one, after two years, they'll forgive another third, and then after another year, they'll forgive the rest. Now, sometimes what they'll do is
that's 3/3.
Sometimes what they'll do is I
did that in my head too.
That's right. Yeah. Sometimes what they'll do is that they will, instead of forgiving some of it, or they'll take the amortization out longer. So what happens is that even though your mortgage is over, there's still going to be a balloon payment due at the end. So, that's not a good thing. But again, I always tell people, you want to move. Sometimes it just turns out that you're just going to rent the house because you're never going to really own it because you're going to owe so much on the house. But most people want to stay in their home, and that's what a loan modification will do.
You know how much it costs to move?
It costs a lot of money to move, and it's not, and it's the hassle, and that's where your kids are, and all of So anyway, this is how loan modifications work, and the different terms. So they just change some of the terms, and what the goal is to reduce your your monthly mortgage payment to about 31% of what your gross income is.
And if somebody wanted to do something like that, Steve, how would they contact you?
You can call me at 312-664-6649. Visit us on the web at chicagotaxteam.com. And if you have a question, you can send me at questions@irsradiohour.com.
Or what's our Facebook page?
The Facebook is Facebook/IRS Radio Hour.
Please like us.
That's right.
We want you to like us on Facebook and follow us on Twitter. Be right back.
Hi, I'm Stephen Leahy, and for me, success comes when I help other people. That's why I became an attorney. I know the economy has taken a financial toll on many families and businesses, but I believe that they can recover from their financial problems if they just get the right help. I'm here in Chicago, and I know that if people improve their financial situation, they improve their lives, and I want to help. If the IRS is attacking you with liens, levies, or garnishments, if your mortgage company has threatened foreclosure, or collectors' calls are driving you mad, you need help. We listen to your financial situation, find out what's really going on, and develop a workable solution. Remember, I'm right here in Chicago, and your first visit is completely free and confidential. I will tell you on the spot what can be done and what it will cost. If you are looking for help, you've come to the right place. Call me, Stephen Leahy, at 312-664-6649. Again, that's 312-664-6649. Or visit us on the web at chicagotaxteam.com. Call me today.
You're listening to the IRS Radio Hour with attorney Stephen Leahy on AM 560, The Answer. Attorney Stephen Leahy brings his passion and expertise to your radio each and every week during the IRS Radio Hour. Tune in, take notes, and be educated. Learn your options resolving financial obstacles that face so many. And now, back to the IRS Radio Hour with your host, Attorney Stephen Leahy.
Welcome back. I am your host, Attorney Stephen Leahy, and this is the IRS Radio Hour on AM 560, The Answer. So I wanted to mention that the last segment is supposed to be my segment, and Jim's not supposed to talk in it, but he did talk in it. So
he made me laugh.
And that's why he's not supposed to talk, because he makes me laugh, and then I'm not supposed to be laughing.
Yeah. All right, so everybody forget about the last segment, except for the stuff he was talking about that was said.
The important stuff, because it
is important. That's why we're here.
I know, loan modification.
We do, and we want to help people. You want to help people.
And I don't care. I had a number of calls this last week, and because we're talking about foreclosures, I got a lot of calls about foreclosures.
Thank you.
Go figure.
Thank you. And how would they get in touch with you again at that number?
312-664-6649. One of the stories that I wanted to talk about at the
early on. That's right.
And I kept mentioning, you kept saying, no, not yet.
Yeah, because we were so busy.
We don't want to talk about that one yet.
We had 100 different, and we didn't have a clip for it. You know how.
I didn't have a clip for it. We could have.
There's a candidate here in Cook County, or some of my friends call it Crook County.
Yes.
Crook.
Or as Drudge reported, Cooked County.
Cooked County. The man's name is Jim Moynihan. Jim Moynihan. And Jim went in to vote for himself for state rep. And he went into the he went into the polling place in Schaumburg, where we're early voting for 3 weeks of early voting. And before I finish this, does anybody out there realize that when you're voting in January or February for mayor, there is no early voting?
That's right.
I wonder why that would be.
They passed this law, and it's just for this election.
It's just for federal elections. It's not for...
I wonder who it helps there, Jim.
I wonder why. Why wouldn't they want their old people to vote for 3 weeks for when it's just Democrats?
I understand. I wonder why that is.
I don't understand. Anyway, that's horrible if you want to take people's franchises away.
That's right.
But this candidate, Mr. Moynihan, who was running for state rep from Schaumburg on the Republican ticket, bing, 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 bing. Anyway, Mr. Moynihan pressed the button and went to vote for himself. And imagine his horror when his opponent's name came up on the screen. So he canceled it, voted again. Again, that happened. Mm-hmm. And then he brought over the election judges and the election officials, and it happened again. And, of course, they said, this was just...
it's a calibration error.
That's right. Our calibrations were wrong.
And I was saying, I would believe it was a calibration error if, in fact, you voted for a Democrat
and
came up Republican. Wait a minute. Stop the presses. We can't have that.
You're taking their franchise
What are you,
away.
Nuts? What are you, crazy? What are you, goofy? We got to change that.
That's Al Gore in Florida, remember? Oh, my God, you're not allowing people to vote. Well, you can vote for 6 weeks. Some of them you can mail in. What was it, Colorado?
There's Colorado to mail in. That's James O'Keefe went to Colorado and was doing an expose in Colorado.
Well, I'm working.
I just don't know how does that work. You just send out ballots in the mail and they just mail them back.
Yeah, just mail them.
Who voted for it? Who sent the mail? But it doesn't matter.
I swear to God, it's me. Anyway, we're working. We are doing outreach, and you have to blame the other side, the Republican Party, for not doing outreach for all these years. But they're
got to have somebody at every polling place.
You have to. And, the Democrats all say, well, this never happens. And I always ask them, well, why do you have somebody at every polling place?
That's right.
And they said, I don't know.
So we can pay them.
But we don't need
we get
you.
The votes.
That's it. So we can pay. Well, that's allegedly, sir.
Okay. So now
here it is. We had to change the song. We're off the wagon, Bears. You have to earn your way back.
No, don't say that, because I am still on the Bears wagon. I'm just playing the Hawks because I'm a Hawk fan too.
And they have. Well, that's true. And they have not lost.
So if you have a question, you should call me at 312-664-6649. Visit us on the web at ChicagoTaxTeam.com.
See you here next week
on Sunday at 5 o'clock. The IRS Radio Hour
on The Answer.